I don't think I can keep doing testing on these vaccine-injured kids, man. These parents bring these kids in that are rough and wanting blood work, you know, and you gotta pin these kids down, and like I just can't do it. We've started doing the Alligo scan, right? So they can do a tissue scan. It's non-invasive. That's nice. You still get all your metals and minerals and stuff, but like aluminum every time, heavy metals every time. My heart broke today. I love my kids very much, and I'm very grateful for that. And I'm grateful to be able to help some people that are just in a spot, but it was a tough day. Hug your kids.
Unfortunately, I think this is just the beginning. So I've learned when people tell you what they're going to do, don't ignore them. So when the UN and Bill Gates and Klaus Schwab tell you that they've got a UN 2030 plan with sustainable development goals, I think there are 17 or 21 of them, and every one of them says you won't be traveling, you won't have a private car, we won't be using international shipping to move goods around, there won't be any flights except military or perhaps very rich people. You won't own anything and you'll be happy. You probably won't live in your own house. You'll be using much less energy for everything, including heating, manufactured goods, and so on. When they tell you that, you should assume that they're serious about it. And so I think COVID has been part one of a multi-act play that's going to take 10 years that will destroy the liberal democracies completely. We've already, if you think living in a democracy, now ask yourself who you could vote for that would change this. Because I don't think there's anyone you can vote for anywhere that is guaranteed things. So I don't have an answer, but I'm telling you, I think we're sliding down through the gates of hell. I'm speaking out. There's nothing in it for me. I've lost lots of money, all my friends. I'm away from my home and family. And I'm speaking out because, as I close, I am absolutely sure what I've told you is substantially true.
3i Atlas 60-second update. If you're like most people and going, what the hell is happening? 1, it's producing methane. You know, I don't remember the last time a comet, a meteor, or an asteroid produced methane. 2, it's producing its own light source, and it's producing it from within. I don't remember the last time a comet, meteor, or asteroid did that. 3, it's speeding up and slowing down. It's changing course and then correcting its course. I don't remember when an asteroid, meteor, or comet ever did that either. It's also not producing what typically follows the tail of a comet, meteor, or asteroid. And in fact, it's actually producing that at times in front of it, which is leading scientists to believe that it has some form of exhaust that is helping it speed up or slow down. I don't remember when an asteroid, meteor, or comet has done that either. And lastly, the elements it's made of are not known on our periodic table. 3i Atlas.
I unfollowed her. She didn't.
Quickly before we go, got about 30 seconds. Aldi, the supermarket chain, is considering selling edible insects to help families afford protein. This stuff drives me nuts, Esther.
It's absolutely disgusting. I'm sure Bill Gates is over the moon because that's been the plan all along, to get us to stop eating normal food and to eat bugs while the elite at the top eat their Wagyu beef and lobster and watch all the peasants at the bottom eat insects and rats because it will save the planet, apparently.
Exactly.
I was today years old when I found out that.
I want to say this. We've had 4 measles deaths in this country in 20 years. We have 100,000 autism cases a year. We have 38% of our kids now are diabetic or pre-diabetic. That should be in the headlines. When I was a kid, the average pediatrician saw 1 case of diabetes in a 40 or 50-year career. Today, 1 out of every 3 kids who walks through his office door is diabetic or pre-diabetic. That should be getting the headlines. When I was a kid, 2 million, there were 2 million measles cases a year, and none of them got headlines. And we had 400 deaths. We had deaths about between 1 and 1,200, 1 in 10,000. We have so many kids now who are afflicted by chronic disease, And the media never covers them. They only want to cover measles. And what I've been saying to people is let's pay attention to other illnesses as well. And the illnesses that are really, really damaging our country, that are existential for our country. We now spend almost $1 trillion a year on diabetes and metabolic disorder. By 2035, we're going to be spending $1 million a year on autism. Autism in 1970 was 1 in 10,000 Americans. Today, it's 1 in 31. In California, it's 1 in every 20 kids, 1 in every 12.5 boys. This is what the media ought to be focusing on, and it's not. And because of that, we don't have the solutions and we don't have the cures.
Every American needs to listen to Oriole Palmer.
What do you think happened on 9/11?
When Deputy Chief Oriole Palmer, one of the most decorated firefighters in the city, takes his unit to the first building, they go up 40 floors in an elevator while the planes have already hit. He gets off the elevator and you hear him say, "We're on the 40th floor, everything's okay. We're going to walk up." He gets on the 50th floor, "It's okay. We're going up higher." Oriole Palmer, Battalion Chief, reaches the 78th floor, the floor of impact, comes out of the stairwell, and you hear him say as clear as day, "We're here, the floor of impact. We've got 2 fires, and we can handle them." And the building collapses in within 1 minute.
Get out of here.
No, that's true. Every American needs to listen to...
We've set out to overthrow functioning constitutional democracies in over 20 countries. We manipulated elections in dozens of countries. We created standing armies and directed them to fight. We went after to organize ethnic minorities to encourage them to revolt. The first thing we did in Nicaragua was to go to the Mosquito Indians, who had never gotten along with the other people in Nicaragua very well, and give them more money than they had seen in the entirety of history, and arms and training and rationales and sanctuaries in Honduras, and sent them into Nicaragua to attack, kill, fight, rape, burn, pillage. And this has been a technique the CIA has used in Nicaragua, in Thailand, in Vietnam, in Laos, in the Congo, in Iran, Iraq with the Kurds, in different parts of the world. We created, trained, and funded death squads like the Treasury Police in El Salvador. And we've assassinated world leaders, including the United States President in 1963, and I'll get to that in more detail in just a moment. You can never be sure how many people are killed in the jungles of Laos or the hills of Nicaragua, but adding them up as best we can, we come up with a figure of 6 million people killed, minimum figure. It has to be more than that. These things are all done in countries of the third world where the governments don't have the power to force the United States to stop destabilizing the country and brutalizing their people.
Sometimes we have 3 major categories of injury. We have the allergic, which is your eczema, your allergies, your asthma. We have neurodevelopment, so language, speech, behavior issues, autism, ADD, ADHD, that aren't recognized as connected to vaccines. There was no ADD or ADHD in the unvaxxed.
That's amazing.
That's amazing, right? Yeah. I was at a major autism conference with over 1,000 attendants, and there was a panel of experts. This was back in the early 2000s. The question was to this panel, and all 8 of them went down and said the same thing. The question was, is ADD and ADHD just on the mild end of the autism spectrum? And every single one of them said yes.
Amazing.
So when you know now that in the United States, ADHD is probably 1 in 6, 1 in 10,
Yeah.
1 in 8, somewhere in there.
Wow.
And that's the mild end. It's basically, we're doing something to our children that is messing with their brains. And how badly it messes with their brains and exactly where it messes with that, whether it's actual toxic effect, whether it's immune activation, whether it's just massive inflammation, and we now have documented so many mechanisms of how this happens and why it happens. It's just a matter of degree. We are destroying our children's brains and their future. And vaccine's a big part of it. But the third category that was very clear in my data is infections. So we had increased ear infections, lung infections, sinus infections, eye infections, skin infections, GI infections, infections of all kinds combined. About 400%, 300 to 400% more.
4 times the rate of overall just infections.
In the vaccinated, and these weren't even CDC vaccinated. These are
like lightly vaccinated.
Lightly vaccinated compared to unvaccinated.
God knows. Everyone is sick. Their kids are all sick.
They're sick, but they're being told by their pediatrician it's not the vaccines.
And they looked at the data, they looked at children who had received the hepatitis vaccine within the first 30 days of life and compared those children to children who had received the vaccine later or not at all. And they found an 135% elevated risk of autism among the vaccinated children. And it shocked them. They kept the study secret, and then they manipulated it through 5 different iterations to try to bury the link. And, we know how they did it. They got rid of all the older children, essentially, and just had younger children who were too young to be diagnosed. And they stratified the data, and they did a lot of other tricks. And all of those studies were the subject of that kind of trickery. And so if you're a parent and you want to be a good parent, you need to do your own research about everything today, because everybody's lying to you. Typical pediatrician's office makes about 50% of its funding comes from vaccines, not actually from selling the individual vaccines, from the traffic. And today, every kid goes to the doctor at least 10 times to get their vaccines, and that foot traffic in and out of the office is a major part of the business plan for the pediatrician office. And they're also then rewarded by Blue Cross Blue Shield, which has a reward schedule for pediatricians who vaccinate 80 or 85% of the kids in their office, get these giant bonuses, hundreds of thousands of dollars that they make, making sure that 85% of the kids are vaccinated. And that's why they throw you out of the office if you fight back. It's not because they care so much about your particular kid. It's that you'll throw off the metrics and you'll lose them their bonuses. Part of the responsibility of being a parent is, unfortunately, is to not trust everything your doctor says.
We find out that every jab, not just the Pfizer one, every single one out there, including the one that was used in China, has 51 to 55 elements that are not supposed to be in there. You want to find out the really interesting part? All jabs have 100% chromium in them. Do you know why they pick chromium? It has a +6 oxidation state. What does that mean? It means it's a much more tunable atom when it interacts with electromagnetic radiation. Want to hear something even crazier? Chromium isn't found in every single drug that Big Pharma makes. Did you know that? So you got these high atomic elements with non-native EMF, and it's always associated with these unusual diseases that humans are getting. This is the collateral effects of the bioweapons program. But it turns out, what DARPA finds out, is that the people that have the darkest skin are difficult to control. We find out that
we mastered gravity control.
Am I to pull from this that none of the vaccines, including the COVID vaccine, has not been properly tested?
Absolutely. Not a single childhood vaccine, I could tell you, has gone through a placebo-controlled clinical trial of sufficient duration and power to assess that it was safe before being injected into millions of children in America.
All right.
I can say that categorically, not because it's my opinion, but because anybody who goes to the FDA website could see that for themselves by looking at the package insert and the underlying clinical trial documents that are available on the FDA website.
Am I to pull from...
This is if you looked at that MHR... This is a message from an OG lesbian. If you looked at that MHRA report for the public, you will see that they didn't do any fertility studies. Pages 16 to 21 are of particular interest for people to look at if they're interested. They did no fertility studies, and they didn't even do fertility studies in animals. They were exempt. The studies and trials were exempt, which is most peculiar. They didn't do any studies in pregnant women, and yet it was pushed on pregnant women. And we know from the Pfizer studies themselves that they said to the women in the studies, you must not get pregnant, you must use contraception, you mustn't get pregnant under any circumstances. And human nature being what it is, 25 women did get pregnant. And out of the 25 pregnancies, there were 15 miscarriages, which means that's 58% miscarriage rate for women who were vaccinated and became pregnant. And out of the 9 babies that were born, 5 had congenital abnormalities. So this is a complete disaster, absolute disaster. And we've seen miscarriage and stillborn baby rates go up enormously, actually. In Scotland, the normal rate is 2 in 1,000, and it's gone up to 4.9 in 1,000, which is the highest level for over 10 years.
Is this, I mean, those are just absolutely...
That's how much their first iPhone was sold for.
Afternoon, gang. When some of us talk about the mainstream media being manipulative...
The longest lived people had high cholesterol levels. And isn't that funny? It is one of the most consistent themes of longevity research that the longest lived people have higher cholesterol. And yet we live in a world that hates cholesterol. And the moment cholesterol goes up, we put them on a cholesterol lowering medication. We could be doing the perfectly wrong thing to help these people live longer.
Sorry, they found that some of the longest living humans had high cholesterol levels.
That's right. That's what the Sweden study found, for example. What were some of the most consistent themes? They had good glucose control and high cholesterol. It is a molecule of life. Mitochondria have to have a cholesterol molecule in them in order to work. All sex hormones are built on cholesterol. It's no surprise if someone takes a cholesterol-lowering medication, their sex hormones go down.
But there's good and bad cholesterol, right?
Well, that's, as the story goes, yes, and yet I think that's overly simplified, where people will say LDL cholesterol is the bad cholesterol, and yet that gets included in these studies of longevity. So I think the good and bad aspect of it is not entirely fair or accurate. We need LDL. And LDL is just as much a component of the immune system. LDL actually helps the body fight infections. So it's also an unsung hero of immunity. Why are we so obsessed with cholesterol? Why not triglycerides, which is another lipid that can be measured that is far more predictive of who's going to have a heart attack or not? And I think it's because we have chosen markers in modern medicine that we have well-designed drugs. So it's a really, really good way to sell a lot of drugs.
They are 10,000 times more toxic to your nervous system than lead. They contain mycobacteria, viruses, Pseudomonas florensis bacteria, human plasma. Wonder what human plasma is doing in chemtrails. And this is not by conjecture. I did a lot of research before I'd ever say this, but these chemtrails are nasty. And there's 3 reasons for chemtrails. The first is and I talked to my NSA buddies at Fort Carson, Peterson Air Force Base, and Buckley, where I was actually their doctor taking care of the pilots flying and spraying the chemtrails. So I know it's real. If anybody says it's not real, they're full of it. Okay? Because I'm a whistleblower. On the inside, it's not open for discussion. And my NSA buddies told me, 95% of them told me they were up there trying to spray to reflect the sun out to stop global warming. So most of them are dumb enough to believe that garbage. Okay? And also in the chemtrails, and there's a link direct that Jeff Francis found out, and I'm going to have Dr. Staninger and Dr. Karju on in about a week on my radio show. And I've done some investigations, and there's very solid evidence now that Morgellons is caused by a silicon-based nanomachine life form that does not originate on planet Earth. Is that not interesting? This is a silicon-based life form that is intelligent like bees or ants, and it fights back. Conversion.
Yeah, so we recently, actually yesterday, published a study.
Why is nobody talking?
Today, the global depopulation plan is real, and you are the target. Distrust the government, avoid mass media, and fight the lies. Almost everything that is happening, and these days nothing happens by accident or coincidence, is driven by that conspiracy. The aim of the depopulation plan is to gain control of the world, set up a world government, and lead us via the horrors of net zero into the wilderness of the Great Reset. The global warming myth, the massive immigration programs, the end of medicine, the destruction of farming and economies around the world are all part of the plan. A subsidiary aim is to save money by dramatically cutting the amount of money spent on pensions, benefits, welfare and medical care. We've entered our own killing fields, and this is truly the slaughter of the innocent. During the last few decades, the major progress in medicine has come not in saving people, but in killing them. The Liverpool Care Pathway, the Do Not Resuscitate notices, the kill shots and euthanasia. We're living and dying in strange and frightening times. Sadly, too many people assume that all these things are a result of individual occurrences of incompetence, greed or stupidity. They are not. We are all victims and prisoners to be of the world they have designed for us. And thank you for watching An Old Man in a Chair.
So I'm gonna break it down for you, all right? And if somebody wants to know what I mean by turn violent, all right, this is what I mean. If you resist lawful orders, you're going to jail. Let me be very clear about that. If you block an intersection or a roadway in Brevard County, you are going to jail. If you flee arrest, you're going to go to jail tired because we are going to run you down and put you in jail. If you try to mob rule a car in Brevard County, gathering around it, refusing to let the driver leave, in our county, you're most likely going to get run over and dragged across the street. If you spit on us, you're going to the hospital and in jail. If you hit one of us, you're going to the hospital and jail, and most likely get bitten by one of our big, beautiful dogs that we have here. If you throw a brick, a firebomb, or point a gun at one of our deputies, we will be notifying your family where to collect your remains at, because we will kill you graveyard dead. We're not going to play. So I'm gonna break it down.
You know, my country was...
Did you know nicotine is a published cure for Parkinson's disease, MS, Alzheimer's, ulcerative colitis, all arthritises, all of them. Psoriatic, gout, osteo, rheumatoid. Did you know it's also a published cure? I already mentioned it, myocarditis. Did you know that during 2021, while we were all locked down at home during COVID-19, that our government in the United States was paying researchers to investigate 2 of the 36 poisons that were found in all COVID patients, and they injected them into mammals and created within 72 hours glioblastoma tumors. Right. And then they were paid by our government to see if they could reverse glioblastoma tumor formation that they created in 3 days or less. And do you know what they dissolved within 72 hours glioblastoma tumors with? Nicotine. Did you know that autism traits? Yeah. They've already investigated nicotine patches between the shoulder blades of all children and adults, and within 7 days they see improvements in all their symptoms. Did you know nicotine is... Holy smokes, you're not going to believe this, but...
There's about 940,000 of you on here on TikTok who follow me. And I need you to pay very close attention to this entire video. You cannot say, I didn't tell you so. This is my gift to you. If you're intelligent, if you're smart, if you do your research, something interesting will happen if you pay attention to this entire video. So I'm going to say it. I'll keep saying it until at least my people understand what's happening. I need you to block out everything happening in the world. I don't care if it's politics. I don't care what it is. Trade, tariffs. I need you to block out everything happening in the world and listen to this video. There's something happening, and if you do not pay attention, you're going to miss it. So I hope and I pray that everybody who's seen this face, you act accordingly. I need you to check this out, okay? So it's very simple. I need you to research this on the screen right here. That's it. Just go research it, because this right now is sitting under a penny. And if you know what it is, something interesting will happen with this right here. So I need you to check. There's 2 things. Block out everything in the world and go research this right here. And then one more, okay? Hold on. And this right here. There's nothing more that I need to say. But you cannot, I want you to screenshot, save, share this video, do whatever you got to do. But you cannot say, I did not tell you, and put you in position to win this year. 2 things. Block out everything in the world and check these 2 out. And if you still don't understand what I'm saying, tap right here on the screen where it says the Phoenix contract. Watch all those videos so that you're in the loop and you do not miss this very exciting thing that will happen in the coming days.
Having no internet sucks, and that's what makes moving house as a gamer or a Twitch streamer like myself even more annoying. I feel like
what I came away with was understanding that the spike protein, the S1 subunit specifically, is not a benign protein. It triggers inflammation, it disrupts endothelial barriers, it induces fibrin resistant to breakdown, and it promotes a lot of amyloid aggregates, which is what I research. These effects impair oxygen delivery, damage blood vessels, contribute to clotting pathologies that manifest with a lot of the symptoms that we're seeing in the long COVID and vaccine injured, which to this day is a huge amount of people. We're talking upwards of 10 to 15 million people in America that are being affected by the consequences of COVID in the long form or vaccine injury. And the typical symptoms are things like heart racing, brain fog, shortness of breath, and post-exertional malaise. In my clinic, I actually use immunofluorescent microscopy to be able to actually see what's going on in the blood and look for these amyloid aggregates. Some as young as teenagers that are unable to stand. Others are previously active adults suffering small strokes without typical identifiable causes. These are not abstract theories. They are the lived realities of my patients in Alabama and beyond. The mRNA injection, heralded as a solution, introduced a novel mechanism, lipid nanoparticles delivering modified mRNA that instructs the cells to produce a stabilized spike protein. Unlike traditional vaccines, this approach resulted in uncontrolled production of the spike protein for an unknown duration and distributes it widely across organs, including the heart, brain, and vasculature, and ovaries and testes. The actual EMA, their assessment of Comirnaty, which is Pfizer's vaccine, noted biodistribution beyond the injection site, contradicting claims that the vaccine stays in the arm. And a recent groundbreaking study using single-cell precision nanocarrier identification revealed LNP accumulation in the heart tissue of mice with adverse proteomic changes in immune and vascular proteins, raising concerns about the cardiac complications that dovetail with what we were seeing when we were looking at the COVID-19 vaccine myocarditis. What I came away with was understanding that the spike protein, the S1 subunit specifically, is not a benign protein. It triggers inflammation.
I'm going to say something racist. Yesterday, I watched a really interesting documentary about the craft, the Trieste, which went down to the bottom of the Mariana Trench, the Challenger Deep, the deepest point in the ocean. And not only did it do this, which is incredible, it did it in 1960. In 1960, before computers, two very brave men went to the bottom of the ocean in a craft called the Trieste, which was designed by a hot air balloon designer, actually, from Italy. And the two men who went down there, one of them was in the US Navy, Dawn, and the other one was a very brave Swissman called Picard. And these two men, with an unspeakable act of bravery, went to the bottom of the fucking ocean in 1960. What's so crazy is when they got to the bottom, their window cracked. And instead of immediately trying to return to the surface, they thought, well, we're here now. And they stayed 20 minutes down there with a cracked window to confirm there was life at the bottom of the ocean. Absolutely incredible. 1960. And I watched the whole thing, and at the end I just thought, black people could never do this. Black people can't even fucking put batteries in a fucking smoke alarm.
Okay, I have known for a while that these things are
You have to watch this video of the ex-CDC director who is right there in the development of the COVID vaccine. In this video, he's now blowing the whistle of what really happened during the trials of the development of the COVID vaccine. Watch.
Should have never been mandated. And, as you point out, the vaccine should have been communicated to the American public, I think honestly, which is these vaccines do not prevent infection. So that argument, get vaccinated so you don't infect your grandma. No. Being vaccinated doesn't stop you from infecting grandma.
Okay, so let's go right there, because you were right there in developing the COVID vaccine. At what point did you recognize this vaccine doesn't stop transmission?
The beginning. There's no evidence that it prevents.
From the very beginning, meaning phase 1 trial, 2 trials?
Yeah, there are trials, the registrational trials that both Moderna and Pfizer presented, no evidence of preventing infection.
Look, at this point, it's not even about whether they lied. It's about how long they thought they could get away with it. They knew from day one it didn't stop transmission, but they still pushed the do it for your grandma guilt trip. And people fell for it. They manipulated, shamed, and bullied people into compliance, all while knowing the actual truth. They had zero proof this thing stopped transmission from day one. But instead of telling the public, they went full steam ahead with the mandates, the social pressure, and they tore families apart. Because if they admitted it didn't work the way they claimed, how many people would actually roll up their sleeves? So what they did is what they always do. They censored, they banned, they destroyed anyone who questioned them. They didn't argue the science. They erased the conversation. Doctors were silenced, experts were deplatformed, people were fired, all to protect a lie. And now they act like it's just another oops, no apology, no accountability, just a casual, yeah, we knew all along. Like it didn't wreck lives, like it didn't push people into losing their jobs, relationships, losing everything in some cases. And look, whether you got the shot or not, the spike protein exposure is real. It doesn't just stay in one place. We know that now. So the odds are it's still in your system. So that's why I've been personally using the McCullough protocol. It's a spike protein detox. It's designed by Dr. Peter McCullough himself. It's got powerful ingredients specifically chosen to help bind and flush out spike proteins from the body. I take it, my mom takes it, I've been recommending it to people. If you want to try it out as well too, the link in my bio is there. You can use the code WINNING at checkout, discount, free shipping in US or Canada, you know the deal. But we all got to choose what we can control and how we want to deal with this going forward. So if you want to check it out, feel free. It's an absolute travesty what happened, but what can you do at this point other than learn?